Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. So today I wanted to do a quick video on growing goji berries, or at least growing goji berries so far, and what my experience has been, and what maybe you can expect if you decide that you want to grow goji berries, whether it's this season or in coming seasons. Things that I didn't research first, that hopefully I can help you avoid some of the mistakes that I've made so far. So let's get into this.
Germinate, don't be late. You're the berry I've been waiting on to cultivate. Root it down, stretch up high. Goji berry, bring that sweet supply.
So each season I like to try different varieties of plants, whether it's, just different varieties of tomatoes or completely different plants altogether. And this year I decided to try a few things I had never grown before. Goji berries was one of them. So let's get into a short goji berry story time.
In the cold days of winter, I was browsing a seed catalogue and saw they had goji berries. I was most excited since I had heard they were supposed to be a superfood with lots of antioxidants. So I ordered some, of course without researching anything about growing them. When they arrived, I planted my seeds indoors around late March to get them started and ready for transplanting come spring. I then waited patiently for my goji plants to sprout, only checking on them about every 5 minutes or so. Finally, after about a week and a half or maybe 2 weeks, I saw my first sprouts. There were only a few that appeared, but it was something. They grew to only about an inch or two high, and then seemed to stop growing. They just sat there, doing a whole lot of nothing.
So finally, at Mother's Day weekend, I started planting my garden, and at that point, the one that was a little bit bigger than the 2 or 3 that were left, I went ahead and transplanted into a big pot out in the garden. And once it got into that big pot, it really started to look like it was doing something. It put on some height, started growing and whatnot. But the last couple I had remaining were so tiny, I decided, that might not be good to put them through transplanting yet. So I just left them in a little pot, hoping that maybe they'd gain a little height on them and, start growing a little bit, and then I would separate them. Well, here we are now, almost in mid-June. They haven't grown at all. So finally last night I went ahead and separated them and transplanted them out. I think that one of them will probably do okay. The other one I think is about dead. So if I'm lucky, I will end up with 2 goji berry plants. Okay, so let's talk about the things I didn't research that maybe will help you if you decide to grow goji berries. Number one, they do take about 7 to 14 days to germinate. You want to have them in a good warm condition. They like the warm soil, not too moist. I mean, you definitely are going to want some moisture in there when to get the seeds to sprout. But once they get going, don't keep the soil super wet. Just, enough to kind of keep them growing. They will stay small for a while because they're going to be focusing on their root development. And so don't be surprised if your plant only gets about an inch or 2 if you're lucky, and then kind of sits there and doesn't do a whole lot. Now, let's talk about part 2. During the first year, goji berries, the plant, will focus on growing into a small bush. When I say small, I'm talking about maybe 6 to 12 inches tall. They're developing themselves. And so they're not like planting like a raspberry cane or something that might take off and get fairly large for you during the first season. They're going to take their time. If you start them inside, around Mother's Day is a good time to transplant them outside for most temperate climates. Speaking of which, goji berries normally are good up to zone 5. So if you are zone 5 and south, you should be fine. They can be, once established, they can be hardy over winter up into like negative, I don't know, like 5 or 10 degrees Fahrenheit with proper mulching and whatnot. And that's once they're established. If you live farther north than Zone 5, and you want to grow goji berries, then you're going to want to probably bring them inside over winter, grow them in pots, and then put them in a sunny window or a well-lighted area over the winter. Now, goji berries also very rarely will put off berries their first year because they're focusing on just kind of establishing themselves and becoming a bush. So if you have perfect conditions and maybe some overly excellent conditions, you might see a few berries your first year, but don't count on it. So berry production starts in years 2 to 3. Once the bush is established, they'll start fruiting and putting off berries. They like areas that have full sun. As I mentioned, they are drought tolerant, and so you don't have to water them a whole lot, and I think that's kind of what hurt the 2 that I hadn't transplanted yet that were out here in the little pot, because we have been getting a lot of rain here this spring. So they were sitting in this little pot and the soil was wet most of the time, and I think that's why the one barely grew and the other one looks like it's dying off. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's dead. They like a light, well-drained soil, and you don't want to over-fertilize them. They are one of these plants that kind of thrives more in struggling a little bit. Like, if you give them too much fertilizer, you're going to get more leafy, green-looking bush and less fruit. So if they, I mean, they're going to be more tolerant of poor soils and might even do better in them. Don't worry about like trying to fertilize them every month and whatnot. I mean, you can give them a little help along the way, but you don't want to over fertilize because that will actually reduce your fruit production. So let's again go a little bit more into depth about the winter hardiness. As I said, they're good up through Zone 5. I just double checked my notes, and they can actually handle temperatures of -15 to -20 Fahrenheit if they are fully established, have a good root system, and you give them a little bit of help, which is you want to give them in the fall a deep mulching around the base of the plant, probably a good 3 to 4 inches of mulch to help protect the roots over the winter, and then they can stay outside. If you are farther north, as I had mentioned, you're going to want to bring those pots inside and keep them where it's a little bit less harsh conditions, because if you are, you know, up north somewhere where it's tons of snow, freezing weather, lots of negative temperatures, it's probably not the best conditions for a goji plant. Now, also, that being said, if in your first year your plant hasn't grown a whole lot, if you are in zones 5 and south, and you don't feel like your plant has really established and started filling out and looks like it's well established in wherever you've planted it, then you might want to consider bringing it in or giving it additional protection, like some sort of cover or whatnot over the winter, because they need to get established to survive over the winter first. So if you have one that has good growth, starts filling out, looks like it's doing good, you're probably good over winter and should be good going forward. So if you decide to grow some goji berries, that's some tips on what I've learned so far and what my experience has been so far. They can be scrappy plants once they get past their seedling stage. They need a little coddling at first, but once they get going, then they're pretty hardy plants. Just don't overwater and don't over fertilize. Let them kind of be, and they'll work a lot of the stuff out on their own. And then hopefully my plants and your plants, if you choose to grow them, will just become these beautiful goji berry bushes that will produce tons of goji berries to give us all these antioxidants and good things and vitamins and whatnot that are in them, or just to make some goji berry jam that has 8 cups of sugar in it. You could do that too. But hopefully we will be laying in piles of goji berries in the next couple of years. So hopefully those tips will help you. and that you can learn from my mistakes and lack of research initially, and have success with your goji berry growing. But I appreciate that you're hanging out with me here again today, and if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff that you do with the YouTubes to help this channel grow and continue. And I hope you're having a great day in your neck of the woods. But we'll see you again soon. Namaste.
Woke up this morning with dirt on my hands. Got a tray full of dreams and some garden plans. Dropped that goji seed like a funky beat. Now I'm sitting here waiting on that sprouting feed. Germinate, don't be late. You're the berry I've been waiting on to cultivate. Root it down, stretch up high. Goji berry, bring that sweet supply.